are the different ways packages can be used in Service Autopilot, some of the pros and cons, and how do we actually set up packages. So what I'm going to do is show you basically 4 ways that I recommend using packages in Service Autopilot for maximum results of buying time back and creating efficiency when routing jobs and being able to minimize that non-billable drive time. So we're going to create a predictable way to build package jobs in Service Autopilot. So if you're joining me live here on the version here that I'm broadcasting tonight, feel free to put a comment in, say hello, and let me know if you can hear the audio. And in addition, if you have any comments or questions, drop them in the comment box here, and I'll answer them live on Callahan's Corner, where you ask the questions and we answer them live on Facebook. Or if it's recorded, drop the notes in there, and we'll also go into that as well. So what I'm going to do is pop in and break the screen down as we normally do here and show you the 4 different ways to use packages in Service Autopilot for optimal results in there. If you are watching live on the live stream, just drop a comment in there. Let us know that you can hear the audio. It looks like we're good, but you never know with these things going live, especially in the middle of the night. So the first thing is we're in Service Autopilot. So the first service I'm going to go into is bed maintenance. So the first thing you want to do is actually build out a service. I'm not going to get into building the actual pricing matrix out, but I'm going to show you the basics of setting up the service so we can pull it into the actual master package. So I'm going to label this one here with 99 in front of it just so we can go in. So I'm going to go and create a 4-step bed maintenance package. So obviously you're going to have more than step, but the theory of this is going to show you the process of building this out. So I'm going to be doing bed maintenance. I'm going to do holiday lights, shrub pruning, and plow stake setup and removal for anybody in the snow removal industry at the end here as well. So these are how we set each one of these up for best practice, in my opinion. So I'm going to put in here just monthly bed maintenance and just copy it down for speed and efficiency here. So we're going to go in invoice description, and that is everything we need here. In estimates, we would go in and plug in the estimate description, and then we'd put the rate matrix in based on square footage of bed. So obviously in this example, I'm not going to go in and set that up. But the idea is we want to set up monthly bed maintenance. Now, if you really want to go in and put detailed in, you can actually break it out per month. In the bed maintenance example, I would not suggest that. But in holiday lights and shrub pruning, we are going to have some definity of the services itself. So we're going to go in and hit save. And the next step is we're going to go into the gear icon and drive in under master packages. And it's not a master custom package. It's actually going to be a master package. So what we're going to do is go in and add a package job, and we're going to name it. And I'm going to put in the description. Obviously, for time, I'm just pasting these down. Renewal is probably going to be January 1st of each year. It's traditionally what we set. So the following year here, January 1st. And we're going to go in and name it bed maintenance spring. Bed maintenance late spring, bed maintenance summer. Obviously, this is fictitious. You'd be going probably monthly or bi-weekly or weekly, depending on your location, but I'm just going to call it late summer and fall. So this is the idea that we're going to pull it in, and then we're going to go in and pull up that service of bed maintenance. Now, depending on the budgeted time and the frequency, you may want a different service for each one of these, and that's what we're going to do with the holiday lights and the shrub trimming. But for this example here, it would be just as efficient to use the same exact service. So once you have your services set up here, the next thing is the start and end date. So this is our bed maintenance spring. So maybe that is going to go from March 1st through March 31st, late spring. And you would probably be doing this on a monthly basis, but you get the idea for the example. So I'm going to go May 1st to the end of May. And then we are going in the summer. So I'll take 6/1 to 6 July 31st. These are the start and end dates. So this is when it's applied. You can actually, the soonest and latest you should be able to do this. So this is your ideal range. Now, obviously, this is a fictitious example with the dates and the timing. We'd be doing it a little bit more, but this is going to give you the idea of what this could look like. Now, when you're going in and doing this, the one thing you want to be aware of is minimum days in between. Now, really probably not so dangerous for bed maintenance, but maybe you're spraying some chemicals. There's different things evolving in here. So minimum days is the minimum days so you don't overlap. So if you did this application here at 6/31, you could potentially be sending the crew out the following day. So maybe you wanted at least 10 days between each round. You plug that in. Default budget hours and default rate, I would leave that blank and allow the matrices on the service to dictate that. So leave that blank. But that's the idea, and we're going to hit save. And now we have bed maintenance set up. So the next thing is holiday lights. So we're going to go in, and first thing, again, we need to add the packages. So traditionally in holiday lights, there's 2, maybe 3 different ways that we can set this up. So we want to go into our services and drive in the initial setup. So we're going to go in, and I'm going to put the 99 in front of it so I can actually find it again. But I'm going to put this as holiday light setup here. Now, where it's interesting, and if you're watching this and you're doing holiday lights, you may have an initial setup where you're either incurring the cost or you're leasing out the actual equipment itself, the materials, the lights, the stakes, everything else you're sticking in there. So you may have 2 different setups: holiday light setup new and holiday light setup existing. The life of those lights usually last around 3 years, and we have to cycle them back. So for job costing, you may want to have 2 separate packages or 2 separate sets of services, one for existing and one for the initial setup, because the initial setup, especially if you're doing wreaths and garlands and things like that, the initial setup time for the first time you're out there that you do the job is going to be significantly longer than coming back sequential years. So for production and job costs, you may want to have several different services as a pro tip here. So as we're setting these up in the 2-day deep dives, there's definitely some granularity that we set this up for Service Autopilot users. But if you're doing it yourself, I wanted to share that tip. So we've got everything in here now. Obviously, we go to Rate Matrix and set this up. And that would probably be holiday light setup C9 based on linear feet. So I'm going to get the setup. I'm going to save a new. Service mode is going to be per unit. And when I go in and reset this up now, we're going to have at a bare minimal holiday light takedown. Now, if you're storing the materials or the product yourself, which you probably are, you can include that all in the takedown. So whether you have a at your shop or maybe a empty trailer or something, you keep all these units in with bins and labeling them. There's some time in there, and they're maybe doing it separately. So if there's 2 different sets of crews doing the takedown and storage, you may actually have 3 different jobs in your actual package job. And that would be the way we would do that. So I'm going to plug this in and just do a basic example. Next thing we're coming up is shrub pruning and plow staking as well, some examples for that. So we've got everything we need here per unit, and I'm just going to plug this estimate in. And we are going to save that. So once that kind of comes in, we're going to go back to the gear icon and go back to master packages. And master package. So what we're going to do is go in and add our package for holiday lights. And we're going to probably end up renewing this not at the end of the year, but maybe August 1st of the following year, because that's traditionally when we may start selling holiday lights. So what we're going to do here is put holiday light setup, and we're going to go in and grab that holiday light setup. And our start time here, depending if people maybe prepay, but we don't turn them on, but we put them earlier, it could be maybe as early as October 1st. And the latest maybe right before Christmas. So we're going to go in and put it maybe around the 19th to the 18th, depending how it's falling on that season. So that's the ideal range, the latest we can go. Now we're going to go in and put our holiday light takedown. Now our holiday light takedown is going to be the same thing, but it's a different service. Now, if you are going to put storage as a separate process, I would put a third unit on here to actually cover your takedown. So as you're going to go in here, we're going to go in and say as early as January, say 1st, and the latest we want it done is by the end of January. So we're going to go in and do the 31st, and this actually going into next year needs to be the 21st. That's one thing to pay attention to. That's a common mistake, even when we're doing it sometimes. You got to pay attention to when the dates and how they're going to fall. Minimum days in between, budget hours, default rate wouldn't be applicable. So we're going to save that up. Now we have a holiday light setup and holiday light takedown, potentially a holiday light storage package job. So the next one is shrub pruning. So depending where you're at in the United States, Canada, or even some people in Australia and England that we're working with, we're going to have some different options here. So I'm going to show you a real basic package here. And we're going to go in and build out our services. So we're going to just do our 2 prunings, and obviously the southern states, you may be doing this a lot more. And your package job would also be probably going into doing ornamental pruning and crepe myrtle pruning, depending where you're at in the country as well. So being in upstate New York, we usually do 2 pruning rounds. The third one, sometimes in a high-end commercial residential, is a touch-up. So I'm just going to go in and build this out. A basic example, but obviously in your market, if you do more, you can follow this. So shrub pruning, round number 1. And this is a good one when you get into the rate matrix, maybe doing different estimating before you schedule into a package of small, medium, and large shrubs, hedgerows with or without a hedgerow. But the idea is I'm going into our main service here, how to set this up. So once you have this set up, we're going to do the first round. We're going to save in new. And then we're going to go in and build out our second round for pruning as well. This is exactly what we did at Callahan's Lawn Care. Our HOAs had a third round that went in for just some general touch-up as well. But this will give you the idea. So now we've built out our 2 services, and we're going to save it. So we're going to go in. And if you're doing commercial and residential, it's not a bad idea to have 2 packages as well. That was something that was advantageous for us to see a commercial versus residential sales pipeline and workflow. So we're going to go back into master packages, and we're going to go in and build out shrub pruning package. We're going to go in and start that. So traditionally in our market in upstate New York, that's going to usually be done between June 1. Actually, we want to renew it on January 1. This is number 1 and shrub pruning package. Round number 2. Now we're going to go in and actually pull up our services for each one. So shrub pruning 1, shrub pruning 2. And we're going to put the start time. So traditionally in my market, that would be June 1st. And it would be done by, traditionally, you'd want it done before the 4th of July, especially your high-end residential. So I would say 2nd to give you some leeway. Now we're going to go back in, and traditionally this would start right around August 1st. And roll up through the end of August. So it was interesting. We had enough commercial and residential work that gap between 7-2 and 8-1 would be the gap that we would do the residential. So the commercial would come first. We'd fill in with all the residential, and then we'd go into round number 2 for commercial. When round number 2 is done with commercial, we'd back in our residential. So that's the difference of 2 different packages. And that's the benefit of it. And same thing, minimum days in between, default and budgeted rate really don't apply here. So that is how you'd set up your pruning package. Now the last one here is a bonus for our northern folks doing snow removal. One of the biggest things in my company that we found as an issue was how do we go out and stake driveways or parking lots and actually keep track of putting them up and taking them down and doing plow repairs. So traditionally, what we would do is we would build out our service to put them up and take them down. And I've already had this built out, but this is snow staking and lawn repair. So what I did previously is I set up a preseason removal, and then so preseason staking between 11/1 and 11/15 because our contract started on the 15th, and then we do a postseason removal in lawn repair of 4/1/2, and this should be probably about 4/15 here. So the idea is once you set this up, you can have a package to set them up and then something to follow to remove and repair that plow damage. So comments or questions drop below, but that's the four main things that we probably would suggest on a bare minimum setting packages up. So you got bed maintenance, holiday lights, shrub pruning, and snow plow, stake removal, and setup for you to set up that route density and run things through there. So comments or questions drop below, but Callahan's Corner, you ask the questions, we answer them live here on Facebook. So we don't pick the topics usually. You guys submit them, and no matter how advanced or how basic the questions are, we're answering them live here to give back to the Service Autopilot community and help you have a better season this year coming up.